What stood out to you about Quinn Williams?
I always tell Quinn these rookies always will be a rookie. But obviously, from a coaching perspective, there's a reason why he's a first-round draft pick. He's explosive. He definitely has a knack for the ball. Obviously, he was taught well and coached well from one of the most prestigious universities in the United States, so that stands out. But I always say, you're only as good as your last game, and you know, from a fundamental standpoint, he understands what we're trying to teach him, and we'll see what happens when we put the pads on.
Andre, how critical is depth at that position? Greg actually had mentioned it earlier, just having enough guys there so they're not gassed.
Oh no, depth is very important. I mean, especially for bigger guys inside, and especially when you talk about extended drives, extended plays. You got to have depth. You got to have great rotation. So, in the end of the day, your guys aren't burnt out. So, we're very blessed and fortunate to have guys that care and very hands-on as far as the X and O's of football. You can tell they're studying, constantly asking questions, but applying what's also being taught. So, depth is always great.
In terms of Leonard Williams, how much do you think the presence of Quinnen will help him in terms of freeing him up from double teams?
Well, that part is for certain. But you also got to keep in mind too. You also got Nate Shipper, you got McClendon, you got Henry Anderson. I mean, we're so depth in the interior defensive tackle. So, in all, just having that level of versatility is going to open up, hopefully open up a lot of things.
Nathan Shepard had a little bit of an inconsistent rookie year, coming from a very low-level, small school.
Right.
What did you see on the film? I mean, would you agree with that? And also, what does he have to do to take the next step?
Well, I told Nathan, I said the pass is a pass, and he's learned from it, and he's grown from his mistakes. But I said, most important thing is as long as you learn from your mistakes and able to grow, then we're able to coach you. And I tell you what, since day one, since all season, he's just bought into our system as well as everybody else. He's always just wants to find who he is and establish an identity. Obviously, I'm familiar with him from the last draft, and he's an explosive type of player that can create havoc in the backfield as well as everybody else. So, but I think for our D-line in general, we all have high expectations, not just Nate.
When you studied film of Henry Anderson last year, what stood out to you, and how do you think he is a scheme fit in this defense?
He's one of those players that you always want. I mean, he's very smart, very detailed, very student of the game. I always say the night linebacker is the quarterback of the defense. Well, one thing about Henry Anderson, he's like the quarterback of the defensive line. It's very rare that you get a guy like him based on not only his skill set, but understand the psychological mind frame of the offensive opponent, where he can kind of break down film and make quick adjustments when needed, series by series. Watching film and analyzing our defense, he was the one that always stood out. As far as just constantly communicating and understanding where he fit.
Has he taken Quinn under his belt at all in terms of?
I think be honest with you, this is by far one of the closest groups I've ever been around. Everybody's just close. Everybody's taking each other underneath their wing. Everybody's holding everybody accountable. And that's a good thing, because now you can have a stepping stone as far as where you want to be and how you want to be as a defensive line.
Leonard, I think it was Leonard, mentioned that he felt like Greg's style in terms of being a very aggressive attacking and not sit back and read type defense could really help this front get more sacks. How do you kind of view that?
Well, I think in sacks in general, you always got to stop the run. Sacks come from stopping the run. You stop the run to earn the right to rush the passer. So that was always our philosophy. Obviously, I was very fortunate to play with Greg Williams for 2 years, and played with other defensive coordinators. That's just football one-on-one. But they buy into the system and they understand it, and everything I think always starts with our individuals. Individuals continue to teach it, continue to rep it, continue to drill it, and continue to instruct them play by play when we watch film.
When you run a multiple front, how do you guys determine some of the hybrid players who might be a defensive end or an outside linebacker, whether they work with you or they work with Joe Vitt?
What I think for us is just a 3-4 in general. It's just we just constantly group it. We understand how guys fit. We understand how guys play. One thing about 3-4 in general is just so unique. It creates a variety of packages, but the communication is always the same. So that way there's no separation. We're all basically speaking the same language. Whether it's me as a defensive line coach, Blake, myself, Joe Vitt, we're constantly in discussion.
Like a guy like Kafusi, is he an outside linebacker or a defensive end in this defense?
Kafusi is everything. He's one of those guys, as well as not just him, but he's one of those guys that can create havoc wherever you put it. He just understands football. And when you have a lot of guys, especially like us, that understand football, especially with the 3-4 package, it creates a good thing.
Just another one on Quinnen. He's pretty nimble for a big guy, so do you view him as a guy who doesn't necessarily, he can play the zero in the nose, but maybe move around a little bit? How do you see that?
Quinnen can do anything Quinnen would like to do, where he sees himself. I think so far with what I've seen, he's a great athlete, but also powerful. He can undermine power, and especially as a defensive tackle, and who we play and how we play, and how the season is long. You need a guy that just can create violent knockback versus run and pass.
Thanks.
No problem.